Good afternoon. Welcome to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. My name is Leon Jones. This afternoon's topic is boredom a mental health issue? Because there are a number of us who complain about being bored. But you have to ask yourself, why are you bored? And what happens when you become bored? How do you handle being bored? Now, here's what I believe. I believe boredom is not a mental health issue. It's a choice. And here's why I believe it's a choice. Because in reality, there are plenty of activities to do that you can fulfill your needs, wants, and desires. But the choice comes down to the individual. Do you want to do those activities? Now, of course, with many activities in life, and that includes your job, which is not an activity, but it has the same type of mechanics associated with it, and the mechanic that I'm talking about is repetition. When you wake up and do something the same way every day, this is where people can get bored with what they're doing. But if that is happening, you should do something to change it. But I believe a number of people are bored is because the reason why this is happening is they lack focus or interest in something that's not related to entertainment. See, I live outside Chicago, and the bigger cities tend to have more of what's going on. It has your cultural events that take place, your dance clubs, go right up to Lake Michigan, you can go shopping. And when it comes to being bored, it affects each demographic differently. Now, when you live in a country, there's not much going on in that type of demographic. The population is smaller, so you have to create more activities. But generally, people do. And you have to realize living in the country or a small town, the pace is much slower than it is in the city. I mean, you take New York, LA, Chicago, Baltimore, DC, there's always something going on all the time. You don't necessarily have to create a venue, but you can also get in trouble as well in the fast-paced cities. Why? Because there are a lot of activities that take place, and there's also a lot of crime that takes place. Sometimes when people get bored, they make poor decisions. Like they could take a car out and drag race and run into a tree. That has happened. But when we talk about boredom, what is boredom? Well, boredom is not a mental health disorder. But boredom can lead to mental health disorders. And that just depends on how we control our lives. Because basically, boredom is a common feeling. And many of us occasionally experience boredom. Now, if you and your child frequently experience boredom for a long term or a long period of time, that's no longer boredom. It could be a sign of depression. Now, what you have to do is, for adults and children, you have to take time to find out why you're really bored. And then once you do that, you find creative situations for preventing boredom. Because basically, boredom is a common feeling unsatisfied by an activity or uninterested in it. That's where boredom comes from. Now, boredom can occur when you feel very energetic, but you have nowhere to direct your energy. It may also occur when you have difficulty focusing on a task. Now, boredom is a common complaint amongst children and adolescents. Now, in some cases, they may complain about boredom when they're uncomfortable about dealing with their own thoughts and feelings. But what are the symptoms? Because basically, boredom is marked by an empty feeling, as well as a sense of frustration with that emptiness. Now, when you are bored, you may have a limited attention span and a lack of interest in what's happening around you because you feel apathetic, fatigued, jittery, and you can be nervous. Now, what causes boredom? Because as a human being, we all identify it differently. But in some cases, here's what the causes of boredom really are: inadequate rest or nutrition, low levels of mental stimulation, lack of control over the choices you make during the daily activities that you participate in when it comes to your life, lack of diversified recreational interests, poor perception of time. Now, of course, you and your child become bored, or you could become bored while engaged in activities due to loss of interest. The instruction can be very, very confusing. You also have the fear of making a mistake. And just as I mentioned before, repetition of the activity could take too much time. Also, you or your child may feel unable to try new approaches with the current activity that you're focused on. But who's at risk at boredom? Almost anyone. That's right. Almost anyone experiences boredom from time to time. Some age groups might experience more boredom than others, but adolescents frequently experience boredom when they're not given more freedom to choose what they want to do with their time because they're still learning about themselves and their own interests. Not knowing where to focus can also lead to boredom. But how is boredom diagnosed? Boredom is a normal response to some situations, and there are no tests to diagnose boredom. But boredom, if it lasts for long periods of time and it occurs frequently, that's no longer boredom. That may be a sign of depression. Now, when it comes to children are highly energetic because symptoms of boredom and depression are sometimes similar. A bored child may want to be engaged and may be easily engaged when you are offering something fun for them to do, whereas a depressed child may avoid it altogether. Now, some children can't adequately describe their own feelings, but working with a mental health professional and asking questions may give you clues as a parent about what your child may be experiencing. Now, when it comes to adults, boredom is very different because boredom, for the most part, can interfere with your everyday life. So if boredom is interfering with your ability to complete necessary tasks or hampering the quality of your life, this is why you need to see a doctor. Your boredom may be related to depression if you experience the following symptoms: the feelings of hopelessness, sadness, evading opportunities for stimulation, blaming yourself for your own boredom. It is true that you take responsibility for what you do, but it might not always be your fault. Now, when you have a doctor, the doctor may be able to help you distinguish between boredom and depression. And you need that so you get the necessary treatment if you don't have boredom. And when I'm talking about the boredom, again, may become depression. But when it comes to treatment, there is nothing specific. And I'm talking about medical treatment for boredom. However, there are tons of solutions if you experience boredom. Now, for example, you may want to consider trying new hobbies or other new diversional activities from your everyday routine. Joining a club can be a good way to start something new in your life. Reading clubs, support groups, political groups, because those are stimulations to help you grow in life. Now, what I do is I take college courses. Although I have degrees, I enjoy going to school because I like to deliver presentations. That allows me to take my potential energy, which that's energy stored up, and change it into kinetic energy, and that's energy in motion. If you took physics, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to anything that you do, particularly if you're a parent, let's get on that for a moment. Well, you can help your child cope with their feelings of boredom when they arise. When they complain of boredom, what you do with your children, you encourage them to communicate, address their feelings without questioning the validity of their feelings. So you have to take time to identify the causes of their boredom and find solutions. Now, what you do and what you don't do. First of all, don't question whether or not your child should be bored. Avoid responding to your child's complaints of boredom with impatience and anxiety. Ask open-ended questions to stimulate their activity and or creativity in finding interesting solutions for alleviating their boredom. Now recognize that your child's complaint of boredom may be their way of trying to engage your attention or asking them to participate in the activity. Help your child identify in other emotional issues or feelings that may be identifying as boredom. Help your child find an engaging activity or one you can participate in together. Now, if boredom is a part of a larger issue like depression, you'll need to get treatment from a mental health provider. Again, you got to talk to your doctor about your feelings. That will help them understand your needs and ensure you get the right treatment. Now, how do you prevent boredom? Basically, it's simple or it could be complicated, and that depends on the person. Keep a record of the circumstances in which you and your child become bored. Note the time, date, place, and activities preceding the boredom so you can avoid these circumstances or prepare for possible boredom in the future. Make routine tasks more interesting by adding a unique element. For example, start timing tasks to see how fast you can complete them. Combine multiple repetitive tasks so that they can be done together. Now, what I like to do that's very competitive, I like cooking. You can find different things to do in the kitchen. Now, what you got to do with any task, you have to break larger tasks into smaller tasks and plan breaks or rewards at the key milestones. Create a list of activities when you believe boredom is striking. Now, if your child is the one feeling bored, you got to create a list for your child that has activities that will help build their confidence. And you have to participate with your child as a parent. Now, I believe that you have a lot of parents who don't participate in their children's lives when they are younger, and what happens when they grow up. That's why the children still live at home and they're still hovering around their moms and sometimes their dads. So with a child, you got to get them involved when they're young so they can utilize that energy in a positive fashion. Now, you have to establish an area where you and your child can store activities reserved for battling boredom. You also have to be prepared to take time out to work with your child to set up an activity when they're bored. But when it comes to any type of issue, you must understand that boredom is common in all ages, and some boredom is unavoidable. However, learning how to deal with boredom at a young age will develop problem-solving skills that will help you in the future. Now, that being said, boredom can lead to depression. Although I never heard of it it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But I believe, from my personal opinion, that most people are bored because they lack entertainment in their lives. Again, there's plenty to do, but you have to want to do it. I have never said I was bored. I may have activities that I want to put down for a moment and rest, because activities are repetitive. But why are they repetitive? See, individuals don't understand this. Repetition is the mother of all teaching and skill, because when you repeat something long enough and you get confident in it, you're able to accomplish the task. Now, what you have to do once you accomplish it, you try something different. But a number of us are afraid to try something new because in our minds, when we try something new, we're uncomfortable with it and we believe that we will fail. That is absolutely normal because you're not familiar with trying something new because the comfortability is low. But you have to remember, when you tried your previous task, you were uncomfortable. But what did you do? You utilize repetition to help you get familiar with the task. And in essence, you gain confidence. This is why I tell you, boredom can lead to depression. But that's only if you're bored for a long period of time. But for the most part, most of us are bored because we choose to be bored. And it is the onus of the individual to add spice to their own lives. Now, you can take advice from other people if they've been in a similar situation of boredom. There are support groups out there as well if you want to join. But what I'm saying, the bottom line when it comes to any type of boredom, you got to be the one to fix your own issues of boredom. Now, have I been bored from time to time? Not like the general population. But that being said, can you be bored of having too many activities? You could be, but now that's going into the opposite direction. That's being overwhelmed. You got too much. See, being overwhelmed is actually the opposite, or the synonym, the antonym, which means opposite of being bored. But in both situations, you have to find simple solutions. So when it comes to any task that I go through in my daily life, I like to break everything down into components. You don't have to do it all in one day. In fact, if you make a schedule for yourself and follow it, you won't worry about being bored. But basically, when I hear people talk about being bored, again, it's for the lack of entertainment, because tasks that should be done, like cleaning your house, cooking for yourself, many people don't want to do. Why? Because it's not fun. And that's where I'm getting my opinion from when it comes to being bored. It's the lack of fun activities, not the lack of activities, because there are activities that you can do every day. It's the lack of the fun stuff that you want to do. Well, first of all, when it comes to fun stuff, you have to understand this, that it costs money to do fun stuff or fun activities. But there are also activities that don't require any money. Now, that being said, I just made the point. If you're bored, it's your choice to be bored, because you don't have to spend money on activities every day. You don't. The bottom line of anything in life, to keep you from being bored, you have to break the monotony, the routine. Going for a little walk. can relieve the symptoms of boredom. Now, can boredom lead to stress? I believe it could lead to stress as well if you complicate things. Because again, the top three issues within the mental health profession that are discussed are anxiety, stress, and depression. Why do I talk about those three areas? Because those three areas connect everything. They're like your hub to becoming a fatality. And what I mean, the hub, well, anxiety, stress, and depression can lead to heart problems, weight problems, strokes, and other physical problems, as well as mental problems. So to round up this information of what I'm trying to say when it comes to being bored, are there people suffering from depression when it comes to boredom? Absolutely. But for the most part, it's you as the individual that has to get a hold of your life and control it better. You have to balance everything you do. Certainly, you work hard, you play hard, but I believe the reason why a number of people are bored again is because they want to play too much. And at the end of the day, when you do that, you start to lose your life because you get sucked into the entertainment part. You forget about your everyday activities, your daily activities. So that being said, boredom is not a mental health issue. It's not. It has never been a mental health issue. Boredom is commonly experienced by all of us. So when somebody says they're bored, ask them why they're bored. And you remember, boredom is just marked by an empty feeling. And all of us have experienced it from one time or another, or one term or another. It happens. I've never seen anybody who hasn't felt empty. But just remember, boredom is a common feeling. It could lead to depression, but it is not a mental health issue. So to sum everything up, have a balance of activities in your life. That's known as diversification. And if you follow that, you won't be bored. And don't have too many activities going on in your life because you will be overwhelmed, and that's just as dangerous as boredom. Just remember, you don't have to do everything in one day. That's why I choose not to make videos every day. I was making videos every day, but eventually you run out of content. So what I do, I make 2 or 3 videos a week now. And when I feel a topic in my head, I get here to YouTube and I present it. Is it perfect? Nobody's perfect. But you got to enjoy doing it as well. But also, tasks that you don't enjoy, you have to do as well, like going to work. I've been working 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. 6 days a week. It's hard on the body, particularly at 52 years old. However, it's what must be done. But see, that's working hard. And then when I get on YouTube, this is my hobby. This is my playtime. That's why I am never bored. And if you hear the example that I just mentioned, I diversify my life. And that's what it takes for you to relieve boredom. That's right. Diversify your life. Because at the end of the day, you're living smart. And you're feeling better. And you're functioning properly. But also, do want to tell you this. Get proper sleep and nutrition as well. Because again, boredom can lead to depression, which depression can have ramifications with strokes, heart disease, anxiety, and other mental health disorders. But basically, I'm going to repeat myself because repetition is the mother of all teachings. Diversify your activities and get your activities completed. You don't have to do them all in one day. But if you have more diversification in your life, that will help you function a lot better and you won't be bored. Because usually when people are bored, they add excitement to their lives, but that excitement leads them to doing something that they wouldn't normally do. Like I said, drag racing, because they're desperate to find something to do. They want to add spice to their life. Well, at the end of the day, that's not adding spice to your life. If you end up hitting a tree, you might lose your life. But that's just an example. But be diversified in your life to alleviate boredom. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show for this afternoon, Saturday, August 19th, 2017. You can tune into the 411 Talk Zone radio show every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Blog Talk Radio. Guest call-in number is 215-383-5785. And if you like my videos, please share and subscribe to the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube so I can continue to give you quality information for educational purposes from a professional and mature perspective. Now, on this channel, I don't engage in debates, controversy, or emotional issues, nor do I participate in drama and or unnecessary bickering. Why? Because it is counterproductive. What I do on my channel is educate and teach. And what I deliver is content that is positive but realistic. Because if you don't have the information to be in the real world, you're going to fail. So when you come to the 411 Talk Zone radio show, I'm giving you information that will give you knowledge of how the system works. Why? If you have knowledge, you have power. And if you have a topic, a business, or a new YouTube channel that you would like for me to discuss on YouTube or Blog Talk Radio, please email me at lej6521@gmail.com. And if you have a comment, please leave your comment in the comment section under the video, but make sure that your comments are pithy. No bloviating, pettifogging, or filibustering, if you wish to opine. Now that's it for this video. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Remember, please be gentle and respectful to each other, and have a wonderful and blessed afternoon.